You know us, we tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. We are Legion. We do not forgive. We do not forget. Expect us. We are anonymous.
Welcome to the world of remote viewing. Remote viewing, or RV, is a skill that trains the unconscious mind to acquire knowledge about any person, place, thing, or event in the past, present, or future. RV was developed by the CIA and the United States military by studying how the best natural psychics acquire information. Your instructor throughout the Learn RV course, U.S. Army Intelligence Officer Major Ed Dames, was also the one and only Training and Operations Officer for the Defense Intelligence Agency's RV unit. With over 20 years of experience utilizing RV in top-secret military and private operations, Major Dames has refined remote viewing into a reliable tool that virtually anyone can master. You are about to begin your training from the most elite and effective RV instructor in the world. Hello, and welcome to Learn RV Workshop 1, Introduction to Remote Viewing. Before we begin, you will need several copies of the remote viewing session templates. You may obtain these templates by either of the following methods. First, you can go to www.learnrv.com/templates. The website will allow you to either download the necessary templates to your PC or print them directly from your internet browser. Secondly, if you do not have access to the internet, please refer to the template library booklet included in your Learn RV DVD case. The templates from your booklet can then be manually copied onto regular 8.5 by 11-inch sheets of unlined blank white paper. The type and number of template for each session is shown on the first page of the template library booklet. When setting up templates and executing your RV sessions, it's important that you use a black pen. Using any color other than black may be distracting during your sessions and inhibit accurate results. Please make sure that you are in a quiet working environment that does not contain bright colors, moving objects, or other distractions. Please note that moving objects also include things such as running ceiling fans and washers and dryers. Also, please have your word descriptor list and remote viewing session flowchart booklet available, which is also found on the inside of your Learn RV DVD case. Remote viewing is an amazing skill like none other you have been exposed to before. Let's begin.
Today is the boot camp of remote viewing, just the fundamentals. It's sort of like ice skating. Guess what happens when you get out on the ice the first time, for those of you who have done that? Nobody skates. We all fall on our derrieres, and then we skate. So we're going to give you the opportunity to do that, and we're going to use the mistakes that you make as a jump-off point for learning, to learn all about this. We take the incoming information in a very structured, ordered way, very structured, very rigorous, systematic, exacting way, and we objectify the inbound information as it comes in, bit by bit by bit by bit. When I mean structure, I mean you're going to have a paint-by-number chart, so you'll know what to do next. Like playing the piano. Think of playing the piano. A pianist doesn't stop to contemplate the note that they just played. They move on to the next one. That's key. That's paramount. That's what you'll do too. You'll take inbound information, you'll record it in the form of a word or a sketch, and you'll move on using a flow chart. No thinking aloud, no creativity, no artistic license whatsoever. Robotic. That's what you'll be taught to do today. And it's as easy, believe it or not, as paint by numbers or connect the dots. You just got to know how to do it. Remote viewing is a 3-part process. The first part is setting up the problem. Setting the problem up. We formalize the way we do that. And that the emphasis on setting up the problem is really in level 3 of training. level 3 workshops. There we handle complex problem sets, not as complex as level 4, but the emphasis nevertheless is on setting a problem up in level 3. The skill itself is the second part, learning how to do this. The third part of remote viewing is data analysis. That's where many of the pitfalls are in our work, as you'll see. But you don't want someone to act as a monitor facilitator while you conduct a remote viewing session. They'll skew the session. They'll get interested in something. They'll telegraph that using body language, can actually influence the student. The students are concerned about maybe, hey, I just nailed this particular target. I described this hidden thing, this remote target, to a T. How do I know that Ed didn't plant those ideas into my head? How do I know Ed didn't do that? Well, that's simple. What we do at the end of day 1 or the beginning of day 2 in a professional setting is we'll take a total unknown to me and the student, and we'll use that. Your best friend, let's see, your mother's best friend's location now, freeze frame. The next person that will call you on your cell phone, their location now when we start the session. So I would have to go to the same place the student would have to be to acquire that kind of information. That gets around the question of whether or not I'm implanting ideas into the student's mind. Okay? So that's not going on here today. You have to do all the work yourself. Actually, your unconscious will do most of the work itself, and it's the master problem solver, total master. In the most elegant way, it will come up with an algorithm to solve the problem. What you're learning are the protocols, sort of the syntax and the grammar for how unconscious can effectively communicate accurately information to conscious awareness. So it's difficult to explain to other people how you're getting this information, as you'll see soon. It's better to teach them. So I encourage those of you who leave here to go ahead and teach your loved ones, your friends, anybody who's interested, your children, in learning this, because that improves your own skills to the level that you've been taught. So after these workshops, 1, 2, 3, and 4, teach. Go out and teach somebody how to do it. It's fun, it's exciting, it's a real adventure, as you'll see. Sky's the limit in terms of targets. Is this hard? Nope, it isn't. It's really easy, folks. If somebody told me, if I had never seen someone ice skate before, and someone came up to me with a pair of shoes with a skinny metal blade on it and said, I want you to put these on, go out there, and you can do all kinds of pirouettes and go really fast and stuff on these skinny little blades on this slippery surface, I'd say, yeah, right. Okay? That's where you're at now. Some of you may have suspected already that we're not going to tell you anything about the target because we're training your unconscious to do all the work. This is called a blind target. Not in the laboratory sense where you have double blinds and all these controls. The teacher, in this case today, knows what the target is. So it's a single blind, not a double blind. Once we designate a target, your unconscious knows exactly what to do. You're the problem. The awake conscious mind is the problem because it's worried. Worried is thinking. It's concerned. Concerned is thinking. Fear of failure, that kind of stuff like that. That's all thinking. Unconscious doesn't have that problem. It's sitting there, right on the target. We're just going to give you the modality, the syntax and grammar for how to communicate that information accurately to conscious awareness without the fear of imagination or overlay doing that. So how do we get that information to you? We just take a set of numbers, a target reference number. That target reference number is also written on the feedback photograph, on the target reference material.
Target reference numbers, or TRNs, are provided as 2 sets of 4-digit numbers for each target given. Target reference numbers are associated with the target by means of a cue. The cue is a formalized and structured means by which the problem or question you are seeking a solution to is written. Cueing a target is covered in detail on Disc 2 of the LearnRV DVD set. For the purposes of this first training disc, all the TRNs and associated cues will point to photographs which you will remote view. Neither you nor the students on the DVD will be shown what the photographs are before executing each of the RV sessions. Those photographs will then be provided as feedback material, so your unconscious will learn from its mistakes to enhance your skill each time you practice. Again, it is critical to your training success that you do not look ahead at the target photographs before completing each session.
We have a really simple, easy format. You might think, well, why did you create this format? We didn't. We watched the way, military intelligence, watched the way that the best natural psychics in the West behaved cognitively and behaviorally when they were on target. And we modeled their behavior. We did not know that this was a teachable skill, that the model could be taught. We didn't know then, but it can, very easily. We modeled their behavior when they were on target. Why didn't we use natural psychics and intelligence? Because they weren't consistent. They did not know when they were on target or off. They did not know when they crossed the line, when imagination grabbed this hypothetical signal associated with the target and ran with it. You're going to know. We standardized the procedure. That makes it easy for you to read your partner's work and for us to read your work, for yours to read ours. Everybody does it the same way, just like in the Army. Name or initials go there, the date and the time in the upper right-hand corner. The target reference numbers that you see here, I'll give those to you. After you write them down on this space, you'll produce over here in this square what we call an ideogram. The ideogram will be produced in about 2 seconds at the most, and I mean 2 seconds. Because that's your body's response autonomically to unconscious signal. In fact, that little squiggle, that primitive squiggle that you're going to produce, and don't worry what it looks like, is actually a sort of a zip file. It's a burst transmission. It represents a gestalt of information. All of the zip files about information contained in your target area are present, not in diagrammatic form, but not even in archetypical form, but in this spontaneous little squiggle. Once those numbers are written and your hand moves over into that box and you produce an ideogram, that starts your session. So, I get these numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Bam. My hand goes over and I produce some line. I keep it in that box as much as possible. Okay, this is my ideogram right here. Don't think about it. Don't care what it means right now. Just do it. You grab, your unconscious needs something to connect your autonomic nervous system to the target. The transducer needs a connection to the pattern of information. That happens to be it. The process whereby you produce this mark happens to be the connection to the target. After you produce this ideogram in that box, proceed immediately down this list right here. Now you might say, well, Ed, doesn't this constrain the process to just these terms? All that this list is to jumpstart this process. All you need to concern yourself with today is this is a touch screen operation. Keep the tip of your pen near each one of those categories. Textures first. And the idea is simply this. You can skim that list of textures if your texture repertoire isn't good and write down the words, the textures that come to mind. Don't worry where they're coming from. You don't know. Whatever texture words come to mind, write them down. Fuzzy, slick, icy, matte, whatever. Write them down. Write those texture words down, okay? If there is a pause of 3 to 4 seconds and you can't find another texture word, or the list after you've gone through all those texture words, if there's a 3 to 4 second pause, move down to the next category, colors. It takes creative imagination about 4 seconds to kick in, and you don't want that happening. You want to end run it. You want to run ahead of creative imagination. Pen next goes into colors. What colors are present associated with the target or the site? Okay. When that list runs out, proceed to the next category, and so on. Smells, tastes, temperatures, sounds. If there's nothing that comes to mind or nothing feels good intuitively on that list, a long dash mark will suffice. And when you first start out like this, you'll have a hard time with this. When you hit that dimension category, this is important. I've subsumed under dimensions densities and motion. Words that describe motion and words that describe density. Hollow, light, thick, rotating, turning, spinning, those kinds of things. Circular. Dimensions are critical to success in our work. Having dimensions, the idea of dimensions is actually a higher level, means higher level contact than the raw sensory data. At the end of the list is a funny little category, AI, aesthetic impact. How does the site make me feel? If I were really there, and I'm not, and I can't be, but if I were really there, how would I feel? And most importantly, you want to discharge any interest that's building in this site. Because guess what's going to happen by the time you hit AI? Hey, well, if it's blue and it's wet, it must be water, ocean, whatever, right? Those kinds of things. And it could be just that cup right there that's empty. That's blue and it's wet. It's not the ocean. But your mind wants closure. It wants closure. Just put that information down there. Then finally, we want you to move over to this page, again, keeping the pen point near the paper. Never close your eyes when you're working. On this freehand sketch, it is critical to your success in remote viewing session. The way to produce this is to let your hand go over here and pretend like there's a brain in your hand, so to speak. It says 15 seconds because that's usually all that's required for your body to respond to the information it has by virtue of stage 1, the ideogram, and stage 2, all those sensory impressions. Then you go over here and say, well, there's something here, and there's something that goes like this, and there's something there, and there's something there, and that's all. That's what we want in stage 3. Critical, totally critical. Those are archetypes. They're standardized throughout the corpus of human beings. But all I want you to do at this juncture is to learn how to do stage 1, 2, and 3. You see that down at the bottom? It says label key site aspects. These symbols in archetypical form are called site aspects. Your hand can go immediately to the most important one. Place an X on that. And then place an A on the next most important one. Your hand will just go right to the exact one that's X. By convention, we call X the target. And all of those together we call the site. When this is done and your hand doesn't want to do anything else, just write N down here. End the session. Just one more thing. This little thing over here that says AOL with a question mark. AOL is our little code for analytical overlay. Analytical overlay is comprised of two things. In this process, inevitably, really up front and close, in stage 2, you'll probably start to get pictures in your mind's eye. Not everybody, but some of you will have a photographic image of something. The Eiffel Tower, a palm tree, a stove, whatever. That picture will pop up. You need to do something with that if it pops up. You can't pretend it's not there, and you can't edit it out because it will overlay, ergo the term, overlay the flow of data. It's got to go somewhere. If you do get a clear picture of something, it's always trash. A clear picture is always trash. Draw the picture over here or write down the word Eiffel Tower. Just write it down. Stove, Eiffel Tower. I've got colors that are yellow, and I've got textures that are soft. My analytical mind says it's a banana. Right down over here, and off to the right of the page, banana. You can even label it AOL, banana, if you want. If it's just an idea that pops up, a high-level idea, it's also trash at this juncture. If you get the idea of a battle, the idea of a classroom, that's trash. That goes over here too, okay? That goes over there in the trash column.
You're almost ready to begin your first RV session. Before you begin, please take a few minutes and watch a student of Ed Dames execute a sample session. It's very important to note the pace of the session. I will guide you through the sections as the student conducts the session. As with the student you are about to watch, your first RV session should take approximately 3 to 5 minutes. Begin by writing your name, the date, and time. Write down the target reference numbers. Immediately create a spontaneous ideogram as quickly as you can. Refer to your word descriptor list. Start with textures. Write down as many textures that come into your mind from the list. Do not pause for more than 3 seconds. If nothing comes to mind, move on to the next category: colors, smells, tastes, temperatures, and sounds. At any time, if you have an image or an idea pop into your head, such as pine trees, as in the case with this student, it is your imagination driving you away from the target. Write the word down on the right of the template under AOLs and drop your pen for the thought to dissipate. Then pick up your pen and move on. Do not think about the target, but focus only on the next perception to write and move through the templates quickly. You should never stop writing for more than 3 to 4 seconds at a time. Now write down all dimensions, densities, and motions that come to mind, but no less than 4. How does the site make you feel? Look at the word descriptor list and write down only one word to describe your feelings. Turn to the second template to produce your Stage 3 freehand sketch. Without thinking what the target may be, allow your body to draw the key aspects of the site in symbolic form, where you feel they should be on the page. Do not take more than 15 seconds to do this. Finally, place an X next to the aspect that you instinctively feel is the most important in your freehand sketch. Place an A on the next most important, and a B on the third most important aspect. That's it. The session is complete. If you feel the need for any further review before beginning your first session, feel free to re-watch previous sections and also refer to the booklets included in your Learn RV DVD case. You are about to begin your very first RV session. Get your first 2 templates ready, which contain stages 1, 2, and 3, and pick up your black pen. Make sure there are no noises, including music, bright colors, or moving objects around you that may distract you from your session. During your first session, you will be remote viewing right along with the workshop students. You'll hear Ed Dames speaking during your session. He will help you keep pace with the rest of the class by informing you what section you should be on. Remember, do not close your eyes. Look only at your templates and word descriptor list, and keep moving without thinking. Your only focus should be in following the structure and what you are going to do next. This session must not take more than 3 to 5 minutes. As soon as you see Major Dames write down the target reference numbers, you should immediately look at your templates and word descriptor list and begin your RV session. Do not look away from your paper or word descriptor list while you are conducting your session. This includes looking up at your TV screen. Get ready. Major Dames will now give you the first RV target.
Okay, first number, 7598. Second number, 2132. Go. Fast ideogram. Fast. Real fast. Textures. Look at your paper. What textures? What textures are present at the site? Look at that list. Look at the cheat sheet. Keep the pen near the paper. Keep your pen near the paper at all times. Colors. What colors are present at the target? Colors are associated with the site. Don't worry about where these words are coming from. Tastes. What tastes are associated with the site? Temperatures. You should be close to temperatures by this time. Use as many words that apply. Are there any sounds associated with the site? You may hear them, or you may just feel that the word is right. Don't worry about how it comes in. Sounds. And the all-important dimensions. If you're getting AOLs, I talked about, write them down. Dimensions. Use the list. The list here. Go through that list. Pick the ones that feel right. Okay? You're thinking. You're your own worst enemy. You got to get your mind out of the way. It's going to be hard to do at first and frustrating. All the dimension words that apply. No thinking. It's a skill. This is a skill. Aesthetic impact. If you were really at this site, how would you feel? Ask yourself, how does this site make me feel? Look at those words on the list. Now the most important part. As soon as that's done, turn your attention to the next page. "15 seconds. This is your body's rendition of the site. Just do it like a doodle. Go down there and commit to doing it. Whatever your hand wants to do, write it. Do it on that page, that second page." When you're through with that sketch, let your hand point right to the most important aspect and label it with an X and put square brackets around the X. If there's something of secondary importance, that's the next most significant feature, label that with an A. When you're done, write the word "end" at the bottom of the page and end the session.
Congratulations! You should have just completed your first RV session. Now let's see what the target was.
I'm going to give you the feedback, and I'm going to put the view graph up here first, and then we'll talk about what we're doing here so you can understand the process. This will be your first opportunity for any understanding. I understand that. Okay? We ready? All right. The site is a photograph of the Grand Tetons, like that. Okay? So there's a prominent feature in the foreground, and there's a prominent feature in the back. If your X is on any peaked structures, raise your hand. If there's X in your stage 3, in your freehand sketch, on anything that has a peak in it, like this, raise your hand. Those should appear as pointed things, archetypically. What do I mean about archetypically? There's two pointed things in there. One is man-made and one is the mountains. These are archetypes. A mountain and a mountain range will be the same archetype. Because to the unconscious mind, it's the same thing. A mountain and a mountain range are the same mold. They're the same pattern. So what we would expect to see with a professional session here, what we see at this juncture as a professional in our first stage 3 sketch, folks, is this. That's about it. On a professional session. You want to see some professional sessions of final product, they don't look like that. They look pretty darn neat. Okay, but that's all that we see is pointed things like this. But those are significant. Those are the zip files that we need to break out. Archetypically, what we'll see on your paper once you get this process down is pointed things that look like the mountain range, a pointed thing here, and also a right angle. A right angle will be present in your stage 3 sketch. The right angles, man-made structures, whether they're tables or chairs or buildings, have these right angles, and they pop up as just a right angle, just like that. We'll see that in the sketch. We may see a long flat line that represents land. That's an archetype for land. All right, and we may see a wavy line up here, which is moist, the clouds, a river in the sky. You may see a wavy line up higher. What is the target, though? I called this the target itself. Let's say you did not have this picture. The target is the Grand Tetons. It's the mountains. X should be on the mountains once you get this process down. The X will be on the mountains, not on that structure in the foreground. At this juncture, I do not want you to worry about what that ideogram looks like, that scribble, and nor do I want you to worry about what the stage 3 sketch looks like. All we're doing here is familiarizing ourselves with the format. I'm not looking for right or wrong. All this stuff will iron out. Take my word for it. No uncertain terms. Right now, we just want you to get familiar with this structure. This is how we start digging the hole and laying the foundation. We're not even close to detail work yet. Over time, what can you expect as a percentage of hit rate? 80% will be correct. It'll appertain to the target. You'll get the cold and the icy and the slick and the high and those kinds of things. You'll have a running 20% error rate. Is 80% enough for us to solve a problem on our own? Yeah, it is most of the time. For a trained viewer. You guys aren't trained yet.
At this time, take at least a 15-minute break to prepare for the second session. Ed will introduce the concept of performing a movement on key aspects from a freehand sketch, and you will also be introduced to making analytical sketches. Both of these will be used in the next target when you return.
Some of you are having difficulty and your mind's in the way and you're fighting yourself. One of the best methods, and I'm not kidding about this, I was talking to a gentleman back here about it. If you're really fighting with yourself and you just feel like this is going nowhere, adopt the attitude of screw it. Just screw it. Honestly, I don't, whatever you want, Ed, whatever, just put pink, chartreuse, whatever. Okay, this looks good too. This looks good. When you adopt that attitude, you haven't invested any energy into being right or wrong. Right? That's when your mind's out of the way and where you succeed. No kidding. Do that. Try that if you're having a hard time. It works. Works like a charm. Because your unconscious is in control then. It's already trying to maintain control, but you become your worst enemy in this process here. This really isn't hard, but because it's new, it is. It's frustrating and hard. 20 years ago, I can still remember how I felt. Man. So I can empathize. Others of you know you're doing well. I mean, you already know you're doing well and you're on to something. You can see the struggle. I've taught many scientists, engineers, some of the world's best physicians and teaching psychologists. And they know, wow, there's something to this. And they see it really fast. Some of you are already there. Now, there's a new page. We call this statement here a prompt. Read the following prompt. In this case, that blank is X. We want to explore whatever you label as X. The key aspect in your first freehand sketch, that first stage 3, whatever you label as the most important thing is X. So you fill that blank in there, stage 1, a stage 1 of X. And you do this. You read that per the instructions. From the top of X, something should be perceivable. Bam. You produce a new ideogram in that box. But this ideogram will appertain only to X and not to the whole site in general, just to X. So we're going from the gross to the general now, not to the specific and the detailed yet. But we're moving down to the way we layer an oil painting. Think about painting an oil painting, layer upon layer upon layer. You can't do the details until you lay down that matte and then the gross colors and then the details, okay? That's what we're doing. We're breaking out each one of these zip files and we're breaking them out in order, stage by stage by stage. From the gross to the general to the specific to the detailed. This is the general now. We're breaking this out. From the top of X, something should be perceivable. Why do we read those funny words out? I'll tell you why. It takes unconscious about 3 seconds to shift, completely shift to a new sight aspect. Right now, by virtue of having drawn all the key aspects at the site in your stage 3, it's all over, spread out at the site, figuratively speaking. But now you're asking it to turn its attention to only one aspect, to focus in on that microscopically. It takes about 3 seconds to make that shift, and by reading that from the top of X, something should be perceivable, will do it for you. That way you can ensure that all the subsequent data will be of only X and not of A or B or whatever else you labeled. From the top of X, something should be perceivable. Bam! A new ideogram. Don't worry about the way it looked. Okay? And a new set of stage 2s. Go back to your cheat sheet, to your training wheels. Get some more textures and colors, smells, tastes, temperatures, sounds, and dimensions. This time, those will appertain only to X. Okay? And then you're going to produce one more sketch. This will be of X too, but this one will be different than the other sketch. This will not be a freehand, spontaneous, archetypical sketch. This one will be what we call an analytical sketch. It will use all of the dimensions that you required right there. The dimensions of X, the stage 2s of X, when you hit the dimension list, we're going to use those dimensions to construct this sketch. We're going to render each one of the words as a line drawing. So if you put down a word of long, you must sketch a line that's long. If you put down a word of angular, you must sketch an angle. Circular, same thing. How do the dimensions fit together? How do they come together? If you got a word of pointed and a word of oval and a word of flat and low, what does that look like in your analytical sketch? Don't arbitrarily separate the low and the oval and the pointed and stick them disconcatenated from each other. They're probably the same thing. If this is my target through a lens darkly, I've got something that's round and something that's hollow and something that's tall, right? And how does that come together in the sketch? Do I want to separate the round and even change the perspective or whatever? Or do I want to put them together so it looks something like that cup? Only the viewer can do that.
Like with the previous session, you will begin using templates A and B, which contain stages 1, 2, and 3 of the site. However, for this next target, you will add template C, which explores stages 1, 2, and 3 of aspect X. This will be a new step in your RV session and provide additional details regarding the target. As each key aspect in the freehand sketch is explored, template C is employed to obtain details about that aspect. For this next target, only one C template will be used, since only one aspect is being further explored, which in this case will be aspect X. Before you begin target 2, please take a few minutes and watch a student of Ed Dames execute a sample session using template C. To explore aspect X using template C, first perform a movement on the aspect. In this case, you will read silently or out loud the following. From the top of aspect X, something should be perceivable. Then produce an ideogram and continue. While you are writing down sensory information for aspect X, make sure you always identify and dissipate any AOLs that may come to mind during your session. It is critical when exploring key aspects that you focus on providing as many dimensions, which include densities and motions, as are present for that aspect, but no less than 4. After identifying and writing down your aesthetic impact, which is how you would feel if you were present at the site, it's time to create an analytical sketch. This is different from the initial freehand sketch of the site when your body symbolically drew the aspects of the site. A Stage 3 analytical sketch is constructed by creating a line drawing of each of the dimension words you obtained from Stage 2 of X. Note how the student refers back to the Stage 2 dimension words to render each one into a line drawing, determining their appropriate position in the analytical sketch by feel. Dimension words that represent motion should have arrows on them in your analytical sketch. Only after each dimension word has been drawn on the Stage 3 analytical sketch are you able to add additional archetypes to the sketch if you feel they are present. You are now ready to begin Target 2. This target will require the first 3 RV templates labeled A, B, and C. For this target, Ed Dames will not be walking you through the session. This will allow you to focus on the protocol without distraction. Therefore, it will now be up to you to keep the proper pace. Focus on gathering and writing down your perceptions quickly. Keep moving with your eyes on the paper and stay in structure. In just a few moments, you will see Ed Dames provide the target reference numbers for Target 2. At that time, you must pause your DVD player while the target reference numbers are being displayed on the screen and immediately begin your session. This session should take approximately 10 minutes to complete.
I'm going to read the target reference numbers. 15882624.
Let's continue. Please have your second completed session in front of you before you watch the target feedback. If you did not yet remote view the second target, stop here, go back, and do it now before proceeding.
So what we want is simply archetypes here. The entire site, here's a target. The target is the Statue of Liberty. I assigned it those target reference numbers, which you had as a cutout pointer. It points to this. There's the target, but the target, that's meaning, and the meaning needs context. This whole thing is the site. All right? That whole thing is the site. Your X should have been on some thing right there in some form on your page. You should have some dimensions that would be something like tall, high, solid, or whatever. You may also have some interesting sketches too. A couple of people got stars. The hat that the statue is wearing is star-shaped, so that will come out too. But we want structural elements like the right angles that are in the base, and we want something that's tall. I don't care if it's even a straight line up, that's fine. But those words, those dimensioned words are critical. We need to see tall, vertical, solid. So ask yourself the next time you run dimensions, the next time you're interrogating yourself, it's through a lens darkly. We don't have any visuals. Ask yourself, what's around me at the site or the target X? What is there? Is there anything that's vertical? If it is vertical, is it high and tall? Is it low and squat and medium? Is this place open, closed, wide, long, tubular, hollow, heavy? Is there motion at the site? Those kinds of things. All the words are on that list there too. This process will bootstrap itself. I'm actually talking to your unconscious because I know this is going to work itself out. You'll be dragged kicking and screaming, the egoic mind, but this will work very fast. Why? Because it's a natural process. We know that it'll work. Very, very natural. It's hard for you to understand it, but the process is natural, and it'll pop right in. There's two things I learned from this business. One thing I learned really fast was you can never look at the world the same way again after you learn remote viewing, because you know that you can know anything. Work, yeah, but you can know anything accurately. And number two, how totally fallible the thinking process is in our lives. Countless sessions that I have done where I know what this is and come up with something completely different that's truth instead of what I thought. Because there's no thinking involved. It's just, hey, take it or leave it, like it or not. This is what the answer to that question is. Whether it's a murder mystery or whatever. You may not like the answer, but it's going to be right. And your fears aren't going to be in the way, and your biases aren't going to be in the way, and your preconceived notions about what you think the world is like isn't going to be in the way. Just the facts. That's why I like this process.
Pause your DVD player and take another 15-minute break. When you return, Ed will introduce the Stage 4 template, which will be used in your next RV session.
There are only so many things that we can know about a target by the time we get to the first stage 3 sketch. The first stage 3 sketch is the freehand sketch. The most that we can know about a site, the most, if you think you know anything more than the following, you're dead wrong. Most that we can know is we can tell by looking at our archetypes that are present in this sketch. We can tell if we have a circular feature, a golf ball, a planet, a microbe, or something else like that, or a life form. Life forms, living things, hippopotami, people, elephants, are also circles spontaneously produced in the first stage 3 sketch. Also circular things are as well. When this appears looking any way, or this, something like that with right angles are always structure. They're always structure. Only in a couple of instances in nature, in the natural world, do you have a right angle that's not a structure, a man-made structure. By structure, we mean anything man-made, an automobile, a table, a house, a casino, whatever. That's going to appear as an archetype. If we have a mountain or a mountain range, we will have something like that in the stage 3 sketch, a pointed object. But we'll also get that for tower and a number of other things too. However, once you're immersed in this skill for a while, you'll know whether or not you're dealing with a mountain or a mountain range or just something pointed that's man-made. We'll always know, almost always, if we have land. Sometimes that's a surface, water or something else like that, but generally the viewer will know that that straight line is land in the stage 3 sketch. We will always know this. We'll always know if there's motion at the site. Always. We'll find our hand, do that, put an arrowhead on the direction of motion. Very important. Is something actually round, or is it going around? Is it moving around circularly like that? The viewer should know that. I want you to start trying to perceive that. Sometimes we can get some real insight in our work into a problem and its solution just in stage 3. Remember I said the answer to the problem is always somewhere symbolically in the first stage 3 sketch. So let's say that the viewer does this with a long sweeping line that moves from the bottom up. Might not mean anything unless, for instance, it's TWA flight 800 / explosion / cause. Now, if the viewer puts an X on that motion line, that's the target, which is the cause. So whatever made that line up is the cause. So it's something going from the bottom up, right? Hypothetically. So that picture is worth a lot of words. And we can know something early about a problem. Last time, we asked you to explore aspect X, which by definition is the target, the most important aspect at the site. We asked you to produce another ideogram. From the top of X, something should be perceivable. New set of stage 2s, textures, colors, smells, tastes, temperatures, etc. associated with X, especially dimensions. Guys, this time do not mess this up. You've got to fill that list up. And then an analytical sketch, which we're really going to be checking this time, of X. All right? And then we asked you, that was it. We stopped right there. Now we're going to do the same thing, and then we're going to go into stage 4 of X. Into stage 4 of X. After we complete stage 4 of X, we're going to turn our attention to aspect A at your site. And we're going to do the same thing again. After we complete an analytical sketch, your first one will be X. An analytical sketch of X, which is a diagram of X, that's all, a schematic diagram. We move into the stage 4 of X. Stages, stage 1, 2, 3. Here's 4, our last stage that we have to worry about. Stage 4 has 8 columns. The way that we fill in the blanks here, and you're not going to be using all the columns this time. The way that we use stage 4 is the following. You place your pen in the S column, sensory. Place your pen there, your pen point. In stage 4, it's still sensory data, the 5 senses, tactile, etc., but in any order. This time, sounds can come first, textures can come second. It doesn't matter, as long as it's sensory information. Don't use the list, the stage 2 list for stage 4. Don't use it. After, you'll get a couple of sensory impressions or not. Then, move your pen down the column and over. Down and over to the D column, dimensions. You're interrogating your brain, saying, what dimensions are associated, in this case, with X. After you're getting no dimensions, all right, go down again and over to that column, AI. What are your emotions? If there's a significant change in your emotional state, the way that you feel about, in this case, X, the first one, if there's like all of a sudden you're feeling nauseous or happy or joyful or whatever, that goes in that column. How do you feel? Aesthetic impact right there. Put a word there. Pause for a moment. Go down again and over. EI, emotions. EI stands for emotional impact. What are the emotions present associated with X, if any? If X is a stone, it's not going to have any emotions. But if X is a person or people or a group of people, they'll have emotions. Do not go into the T column. Do not do that this time. Do not go into that column, the I column. Stay away from those two columns. They're fraught with danger at your level. Okay? AOL has a column all its own. Don't worry about the last column either. We're not going to deal with that this session. They're too high level, way high level. AOL, knock yourself out. If you're getting stuff that you do not trust, stick it in the AOL column.
Before you begin Target 3, please take a few minutes and watch a student of Ed Dames demonstrate the proper manner to gather and fill out Stage 4 information using Template D. During this sample session, the student has already completed the RV session up through the analytical sketch and will now demonstrate the proper pace and structure for utilizing the Stage 4 template. We will only focus on filling out the first 4 columns of the Stage 4 template and identifying AOLs whenever they arise. All sensory data, except dimensional information, should be placed into the first column under S. Dimensional information should be placed under the D column. Your feelings and those present at the site should be placed under the AI and EI columns respectively. For now, ignore the tangible, intangible, and the AOL/S columns, as these are designated for more advanced students and are reviewed on the other Learn RV DVD workshops. The information should be spontaneous. It is helpful not to use the word descriptor list here, as it slows you down. Stop when you reach the 2/3 mark on your template, as this student has. When filling out a Stage 4 template, you should not follow the order provided by the word descriptor list, as you do when you are in Stage 2, but write down the information in the order that the data comes to you. You are now ready to begin Target 3. In this session, you will create an S3 freehand sketch of the site, labeling the key aspects. You will then explore Aspect X and Aspect A through Stage 4 of each. This target requires that you have templates A and B, followed by 2 sets of templates C and D. The order of your templates should be A, B, CD, CD. Label the first CD set for aspect X, and label the second CD set for aspect A. In just a few moments, you will see Ed Dames provide the target reference numbers for target 3. At that time, you must pause your DVD player while the target reference numbers are displayed on the screen, and immediately begin your session. This session should take approximately 25 minutes to complete.
First target reference number, 1814. Next, 6888.
Let's continue. Please have your third completed session in front of you before you watch the target feedback. If you did not yet remote view the third target, stop here, go back, and do it now before proceeding. Welcome to Disc 2 of the Learn Remote Viewing set with Major Ed Dames. Before moving forward with this Workshop 2 training, please ensure that you fully reviewed and understand the content in Disc 1 of this course. Also, to ensure that your skills will continue to grow, please make sure that you have executed practice sessions as specified at the end of Workshop 1 before starting this disc. After the first target on this training disc, you will no longer be using the sample RV templates as provided for Workshop 1 target sessions. This is done to remove the restrictions put forth by the training RV templates and encourages you to become more fluent in the remote viewing skill. Ed Dames will now provide a short lecture describing the new tangible and intangible columns in Stage 4. Let's begin.
We want to wean you away from this pre-formatted stuff right here. We want to get you to be a professional as fast as possible. So you're going to have to use that flow chart today, and the only two things in front of you will be take these out, and you'll use the flow chart and the Stage 2 target descriptor word list. Those are the two things that will be in front of you today, and a bunch of bond paper that's blank. So you'll have to format your own papers. Stage 4, I'm going to introduce the T and the I columns. Tangibles, intangibles. What are tangibles? Things. Is air a tangible? Huh? Yeah. Air. It's made up of a bunch of matter. Okay? Gases. So that's a tangible. That's a tangible idea. Intangibles are usually abstract nouns or any adjectival information. So anything that you can't touch goes in the intangibles section. Anything. Commerce, love, money. Can't touch that stuff. Goes there. Sitting, thinking. But the way that we process information, we don't just jump to the tangible column. I won't know this is an overhead projector by turning my attention to it until my memory goes back and does some searches. And when it searches, it first looks visually at the box and the light and the heat and the reflectivity. It searches for things that are connected with that in my own computer. Okay, yeah, that's an overhead projector. Takes maybe 3 milliseconds to do all of that. But I had to process the raw fundamental data first. So when you're remote viewing, even though it's at a distance, the processing, the way that we process the information is still the same. vis-a-vis the remote target. So in this case here, you better not say overhead projector until you say there's something here that's hot and reflective. And now sensory information in any order, right? In stage 4, it's hot, it's reflective, it's shiny, and then there's a pause. It's boxy, it's heavy, shiny, reflective, hot, boxy, heavy. Then there'll be a pause. That pause is a separator for a cluster of information that relates to whatever your unconscious is on at that moment. That cluster of information is usually separated by a pause. The pause is your cue to put your pen in another column. Go back to the S column, see if there's something else, or move across the columns this way. Okay? There wouldn't be AIs associated with this particular box would be maybe interested. There wouldn't be many more, or intrigued. EIs associated with the box. What would EIs be associated with this? None. It doesn't have any emotions. The target doesn't have any emotions. Okay? Tangible. Structure. Structure. It's got a right angle. It's boxy. It is a structure. That's all that you know. You may say structure, object, or thing. Okay? Now, your unconscious is locked on this object, and as long as it's there, it's going to go out, and now we'll get more information. Go back to the S column, for instance. What about the thing? Well, it's also angular. Angular is not a sensory impression, it's a dimension. So go over to the D column. It's also angular. It's also tall. It's also diagonal. This is diagonal. That's how the information is processed. And then when you have more detail in your head, now you're armed with more data. Now you can say, well, it's a tool. It's like a tool. I said the word like. Like is a comparator. I don't have the exact word. I don't know exactly what this thing is, but it's like a tool. It has a function. There's another word, function. I'm editing. I better get this down on the paper. Tool is the first thing that pops into conscious awareness. I'm moving across and down the paper. T, tool. It's a tool. And it has a function. Lower on the page in the I column. Intangible idea. Function. What is the function? Well, it's like again. It's like a toy. I don't trust that. AOL, toy. Drop my pen, that's trash. Pick the pen back up. Move back to the S column, the safe zone, sensory impressions. Okay, what else about it? Well, it's shiny and glassy, and it's heavy. I already said that, but I have to say it again. That's how we proceed across the columns. Don't say device. If you say device and it's correct, then you edited out a lot of things, and that will clog up your outbox. Don't do that. Let's say that a person is at the site writing. You've detected, you're at a site, and you're inside, and your emotions are, maybe you're intrigued. And the emotions there, let's say the person is writing a love story. That the target is a writer writing a love story. The person, what are the emotions of the person? Busy. Is busy an emotion? It's sort of an emotion. It could go there or it could go in the intangible column. Probably intangible is better, but busy would be acceptable as an emotion too. The person is busy. What are they doing? They're sitting. They're writing. They're thinking. Topics would pop up. About what? Love. Love as an intangible idea. As opposed to a target of a person writing a love letter. In this case, you have AIs, you may be intrigued again or bored. EIs, love. The person's in love. You have a life form at the site. The life form is a person. And intangibles associated with the life form, love. 2 columns. Love as a topic. This person's writing. This person's thinking about love. So you have it, they're in love and they're writing about it. Not to be pedantic, but this kind of rigor is really important like any other business. Whether you lay concrete or brick or build a wall, the rigor is important. Really important. sentence structure and all that. We're not trying to be pedants, but if you maintain this degree of rigor and you control your mind to that degree, you'll hit any target and do anything you want in terms of information collection. The question was, when he was in stage 4 yesterday, and the target, the blind target was the Mount St. Helens eruption, the word dead popped into his mind, and he thought, he was in the S column, and the word dead pops into his mind. As a viewer, you have to decide. It certainly doesn't go in the S column. It's a high-level idea. You have to decide as a viewer where that goes. Is it pure AOL trash, or do you really feel? Now, if you feel it's important, then it goes where? In the I column.
But you can jump clear over at that point.
Yes, you have to jump clear over.
So you don't have to go in any order.
I'll tell you what. There's 8 columns on this page. 8 columns. Each of them is a venue for anything that pops into conscious awareness. I'm telling you, anything. You're not going to use the last one until level 3. But there's a venue there for everything, truth or trash, that pops in. Notice that AOL has its own column that's equal. It's up there with the rest. Don't go back and remember anything. There's no running memory here. Think about driving your car down the freeway. The gentleman was saying that he kept going back, remembering what he already wrote, and the aforementioned, it was influencing the flow of data. Right? Don't do that. Think about driving your car down the freeway. All you're worried about is what's ahead, not what's behind. Because if you get worried about what you just drove, and you look in the rearview mirror and focus there, that's the end of your drive. Always look ahead. What's coming in? What's coming in to conscious awareness? What's popping up? What's percolating up? You take that, and you strip it off, and you drop it in one of the columns. Something else pops up, don't edit. Grab it, drop it into one of the columns. Drop, 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 just like that. If you can't do that readily, if you can't follow your unconscious as it leads you through in the most elegant way to the solution of the problem in stage 4, then just put your pen in the column and say, hey, any sensory impressions? Yeah, there's a red and there's a loud. Anything else? No. 1, 2, 3, 4. Uh-oh, you better do something now, because 4 seconds is a whole lot of time. It's enough time for creative imagination to help you. And it will.
At this stage, the AIs and the EIs, are we actually supposed to be feeling something, or is it an idea that we...
Negative. It's actually a feeling. In stage 4, the aesthetic impact, the AIs and the EIs, the emotional impact, they are real emotions that you would feel if you were at that situation and the situation changed. Don't just say good. We want you to go deep inside with a dipstick, and we want you to really be in touch empathetically with the people at the site if there's people there or animals, higher level animals. We want you to say, hey, I feel feelings of bored. Okay? There's somebody here that's bored, or there's somebody here that's contemplative or anticipative. All right? That takes a while. It takes about 4 to 6 seconds, believe it or not, in the EI column, which is different than the other columns because emotions take longer to integrate. Our receiver processes emotions differently. It takes a little bit longer. So if you want to rest your pen somewhere for a moment, put it in the EI column. Now, during this process, from this point on, if you need to take a break during a session, because they're going to become longer as you might surmise, the sessions will become longer now, the only applicable break points are at the end of a stage 4. A stage 4. So stage 4 of X, A, B, C, whatever. There. Except for the last stage 4. You can't take a break at the last stage 4 because you need to still be connected to the site when you do the site template. So don't break there. Break at the end of if you need to break. And if you've gone more than 45 minutes, you must take a break to stay alert. You got to stand up and stretch and take care of the tool. You stretch, get some water, whatever, in order to stay alert. It's like driving in for long periods of time. You got to get out of the car and stretch. This time, you'll be using all 4 of those labels in the site template. AIs, EIs, T's, and I's get labeled in the site template. Don't walk away and take a break until you do that. You have to go back to your stage 4 worksheets. There may be several. and look at the AIs, EIs, Ts, and Is and say, okay, for my exploration of aspect B, I had an EI of frightened. Where does that go in my site template? Over here. I had a T of people or machine. Where does that go? Oh, that goes over here. All of those have to be listed in your diagram, your site template. Many of you are only making entries, 1 or 2 entries in your stage 2 columns, and the sensory impressions, that reptilian brain stuff that we have that senses smells and tastes and colors, that kind of stuff, and textures, that's what gets you enough contact to whatever aspect you're working to enable you to perceive dimensions. Dimensions are in a category all by themselves. If you have dimensional contact with a target, you have contact. But you can't get there without using the raw sensory impressions as scaffolding to pull yourself in to get dimensions, okay? So if you're weak in those sensory columns, or if you just give short shrift to it, you won't be rich in dimensions. If you're not rich in dimensions, you'll fail to produce a really good analytical sketch, which requires you to sketch each one of those dimension words to render it in line form. No artistic license or creative license is allowed in that process. And if your analytical sketches are not good, you won't be able to analyze this diagram correctly. The analytical sketches are critical to the creation of a site template. That's where my emphasis is going to be today, predominantly on your analytical sketches. Not so much on your labels, but on your analytical sketches. They have to be right. And you can't have any artistic license. If you have the word rectangular in one of your stage 2s, let's say stage 2 of aspect A, you better draw a rectangle somewhere in your analytical sketch. If you have spinning as a motion and fast, that's got to be in there in line form in your analytical sketch. And you have to decide, if you've got both words, spinning and rectangular, how those are juxtaposed, how they relate one to another in your sketch. Only the viewer can do that, because you're there. I'm going to pull these sheets from a lot of you now when you're in stage 4. You're using these stage 2 target descriptor word lists in your stage 4s. Don't do that. Stage 4, you have, by virtue of having worked so hard to get to stage 4, you now have increasingly greater contact with the target or the aspect at the site. You've got a lot of contact with it. You want the information to be spontaneous. Think of stage 1, 2, and 3 as getting your bird dog, transporting it from its doghouse into the truck to the marshlands. Okay? That's stage 1, 2, and 3. You've got to let the dog off the leash now and go out and sniff out its quarry. That's its job. And you have to follow it. This is stage 4. So we don't want to use stage 2 stuff in stage 4. The words that you get when you put your pen in each one of these columns in stage 4 should be spontaneous as possible. So we want to begin to wean ourselves away here at level 2 off of this checklist here. We want to do that. Kind of take the training wheels off. You do want to use the flow chart, though. The flow chart is going to be vital to your next session, because your next session is all blank pieces of paper.
Get ready. You are about to begin Target 1. For this target, you will need the following templates in this order: A, B, C, D, C, D, C, D, E. Label the first CD set for aspect X, the second CD set for aspect A, and the third CD set for aspect B. Those that may require a break before finishing the entire session should do so only after finishing stage 4 of aspect A, which is page 6. You will then resume your session by performing a movement on aspect B on page 7 of your template sequence. Remember, it's only during stage 2 in an RV session that you may utilize your word descriptor list. This list can be found in your Learn Remote Viewing DVD case. In just a few moments, you will see Ed Dames provide the target reference numbers for Target 4. At that time, you must pause your DVD player while the target reference numbers are displayed on the screen and immediately begin your session. This session should take approximately 45 minutes to complete.
So X, A, and B on this one, and then a site template. Here we go. Target reference numbers 15990741.
Let's continue. Please have your first completed session in front of you before you watch the target feedback. If you did not yet remote view the first target, stop here, go back, and do it now before proceeding.
The site template is the goal. By the time you hit the site template, it's over. Creative imagination has had its shot at you. It's completely over. You've done the end run. If you paid attention to detail, whatever is in that site template is at least 80% correct. And the more experience you have, the more detail is in the site template. We can jump off in the site template and do anything we want in terms of drawings and sketching and detail work, and we do. But usually we can answer a question in the site template. That's not true for the search problem, where we have to actually draw trees and fences and all that kind of stuff to find out where a body is. But for most problems, it suffices. You guys can walk up. This is a ceremony in the Hajj. This is Jamarat. Jamarat is the stoning of the devil. You see that pillar in the center there? The pillar is in a crater, a concave pit. These are thousands of people throwing rocks at it. It symbolizes a number of things. It actually symbolizes the rejection of sin, but last year's symbolized the stoning of Satan. We have a circular area, and it's a depressed circular area as well, and then we have people. We have three archetypes there. The life forms, the structure, and that circles are always, as Carl Jung knew, a circle is the most powerful of the unconscious symbols, a circle. That's a hard target. I don't expect everybody to get it. I want you to get part of it so we can correct the part. Nobody's going to get this perfectly.
And it's hard because.
Huh?
And it's hard because.
It's hard because of the emotion level. It's very complex. It's a complex situation. It's situations complex, that's all. But the negative feedback is just as important as the positive feedback. So I know this you see, you're dead on. This is a gentleman whose X is the actual pillar itself. Now I did not designate an X here. I just said, look at the target, the ceremony, Hajj ceremony, that ceremony. So you're free to pick out X. This gentleman chose the center of attraction, which is the pillar itself, which probably most of you did. This is not an easy target. Lots going on. I hope that most of you picked up the idea that there's lots of people there. In terms of circles, if you've got little circles, we need to see some circles. Circles are symbolic of people. His question was, and he did a really good job on his freehand sketch, a perfect job. Perfect meaning a professional can't do any better than that. There's only three archetypes there. He captured them. But his question was, if his X was the pillar itself, in hindsight now, seeing that it's a pillar, he knows he had a structure, what would his EIs be? He didn't get any EIs. You wouldn't get any EIs from a stone, right? Stone is important to the solution to the problem, but that part of the problem doesn't have any emotions, as opposed to the A and the B. I mean, to the whatever the people become, B or A. That's going to be a rich field. in terms of emotions there too. Okay? Some of these words are going right to your unconscious, and it's integrated at that level. That's where a lot of the feedback is operative here. You don't know how this is going to correct itself, but it does because of the feedback and value. We're training your unconscious to do the job. We're leaning on the unconscious completely because you have no idea consciously what the target is. So unconscious has to do all the work. So it's getting all the training too, most of the training. If you're frustrated and you're worried and you're depressed and you're sad and you're disappointed and all that, I don't care as your remote viewing teacher because that's part of your thinking mind. That's your problem. That means you're thinking. And that's a thinking process. This process has nothing to do with thinking. It's actually your unconscious that's doing the correcting here. All you have to do is play the next note consciously. So it's very different. That our egos get abused and hurt. Mine certainly did when I learned this. But I didn't even know I had a part of me that could do this. What's an unconscious? Then I got to see how powerful it was and what I've been missing.
At this time, take at least a 15-minute break to prepare for the second session.
The cue is not synonymous with the target, except for in some cases. There are cases where we work where in your stage 3 sketch, your initial stage 3 sketch, you'll only have one thing, just one archetype. That's it. And that it has to be your X. So now the target is synonymous with the site. Doesn't happen often, but there are cases where this happens. Okay? Most of the time we have contextual information A, B, C, and D. The last target was the Hajj. That was 2003 photo from 2003, by the way. A Hajj ceremony. Wait. Hajj ceremony. And then I gave it a couple of target reference numbers. The problem with a search term like this, could we use this simply as a cue? Ceremony is the topic and the subject. Ceremony is the target. That's ceremony. Hajj is the topic in general. Here's the target. This is a cue. Could we use this without the picture? No. It would be impractical to use as the cue. Which ceremony and which Hajj? Which year? 1995, 2003, the next one in the future, mind's outside of time. Where would our mind go to? It has a free range if we don't specify it, a specific a date and a time. I mean a specific time and a place. So by including target reference material, written or photographic, that completes the rest of the cue. We included a picture of this particular Hajj and this particular ceremony. Does unconscious have any problem discerning what the target is in the cue then? No. Not at all. And furthermore, I wrote the target reference numbers and the cue on the photograph itself. That's necessary. Don't have removable media. Don't write something on a piece, on a transparency, the target reference numbers, and use this as a photograph. It must be written right on the medium. Otherwise, you'll run into problems technically. We covered this more in level 3. Hajj ceremony. Easy, unambiguous. Which ceremony, which Hajj? This one, where the picture says. If it's Area 51, what about Area 51? What does that mean? Don't use Area 51. Area 51. Don't use that as a search term. Get a photograph. Get somebody's photograph, long-range photograph of this place that everybody calls Area 51, but who knows the real name? I mean, I do, but I'm not going to tell you. Area 51, okay? Get a photograph, and in the photograph, you'll have a bunch of structures and things here, or whatever. Pick one. Pick one in the photograph. Xerox the photograph, get a copy, pick whatever you're interested in, and say, I want to know what goes on there. Don't circle that. Take a line and write on the Xerox photograph, draw a line, and call that the target. This is the target, and assign it a couple of target reference numbers. 1, 2, 3, 6, 6, 6, 9, 9, or whatever. Put that right on the Xerox copy. This is unambiguous. Does everybody see where the target is now? If you can see it, your unconscious certainly knows where the target is. And that becomes your target. And you run it. 1, 2, 3, 6, 6, 6, 9, 9, off you go. And you can be certain then that you'll be here and not here, 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 or spread all over the place. Pretty easy.
Would that be at the point that photograph was taken?
Yep. Yep. It would be at that point in time where the photograph was taken. Unless you broke away and you specified it some other way. We'll talk about temporal qualifiers momentarily. But this is an easy way to look at things. If this is a star chart and you want to see if this fuzzy light, if you're an astrophysicist or an astronomer and you have a plate, a photographic plate, and you're wondering what this one point of light is, do the same thing, remote view it, and find out whether it's spurious radiation that triggered a pixel somewhere, if it's a flaw in the machine, if it's a nebula, a star, a planet, a metallic object, whatever. You'll be right on top of it, whatever it is. But don't circle this, whatever you do, on a star chart, because there are so many more. Your stage 3 will look like this. You'll have these kinds of things, and you won't know which one of those is the actual target that you're interested in. That's why we draw a very tight line to the target rather than circling it. Because in this case here, we'll capture too much background. And we won't be able to differentiate which one of these spheres is the target, if it's a sphere at all. All right? Pretty easy stuff. Now let's talk about cues, though. Actual cueing. There are several classes of remote viewing sessions. What you guys are generally working are discrete targets. A person, a place, a thing, or an event, a ceremony, a mountain, or whatever. Topical searches. Here we're not sure what the question is. We're not sure what the question is. And when we set up the topical search, we use italics to differentiate that kind of a session from a discrete target session. So things like the Unabomber, Atlantis, Quetzalcoatl, Malinche, whatever. We're not sure what was Atlantis. Was it simply a legend, a composite of legend, myth, or purely apocryphal? Was it a real place? That kind of thing. We're not really sure. The Unabomber, what's that? Somebody or a group of people associated with mailing bombs. Let's say 1,000 years from now, archaeologists dig up all kinds of written material that indicate that there was a great person named Mickey Mouse. Mickey Mouse is everywhere. They find it, references it to everywhere. 1,000 years ago, this Mickey Mouse, like Quetzalcoatl, the sun god. What was Mickey Mouse? It must have been a famous person. Okay, they're not sure. They'd set it up as a topical search and find out what's what. In that case, is that a nonsense search term in terms of remote viewing? Is it nonsense? No. Consider it as a symbol. Consider Mickey Mouse to antediluvian or post-diluvian archaeologists as a symbol. And what you would get is we run a series of remote viewing probes to see what we're dealing with. In the case of Mickey Mouse, you would probably get 6 remote viewing sessions, all in a different area. A mother reading a book, people watching a movie, people watching TV. Where's Mickey Mouse? There, ideologically, in all of those things, and then the remote viewer analyzing the work would realize they're dealing with a concept rather than a thing itself. They're dealing with a concept. Okay? We can do this with symbols as well. Very rich field in terms of epigraphy. Epigraphy is the science of lost language, the study of lost languages or ancient languages, particularly where there is no Rosetta Stone. The Rogo script, for instance, in used by the Eastern Islanders, still a bunch of phallic symbols, still undecipherable. Lots of languages like that. We could take a glyph, for instance, any type of glyph, and use it as a target and pull out all of the meanings. All the meanings. If you were looking at a Chinese symbol, for instance, let's say Wo or Ren or Ming, and you didn't know what that was in English because you don't speak Chinese or read Chinese, target. What's that? Give it a name. Remote view it. Bam. And you'll find out what it means. You'll find out what that means, and you'll find out what that means. Pretty easy. And you can do that with any script, any symbol whatsoever. And you put it in your own vernacular. Because what are you using in your as a toolbox? Your own language. Or languages, as if you're polylingual.
So
those are easy.
Your question would be...
There's no question. You hit it with a couple of target reference numbers, and unconscious dumps all the data that's related to the target, in this case a symbol, down into the columns. And if the symbol has any reality whatsoever, you'll know what as the columns fill up. Let's say Rogo script with this is undecipherable. I keep harking back to that because I'd like to work it. Let's say this one particular symbol means rowing, or it means the sun and the moon. And that's what you'll sketch, the sun and the moon, and your words will be descriptive of that. These are easy targets. But cues now, the following is where we go wrong. Where we can go wrong. Cueing. What are we interested in here? Who's interested in something?
Disease or something.
Okay.
Somebody that's sick.
What kind of disease?
Breast tumor.
A breast tumor.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's say someone you know has a breast tumor.
Yeah.
What about it?
Well, you want to know if the person has it or not.
No, you just said they do.
You don't know if it has it. But
You don't know if the person has a breast tumor or not.
yeah.
Okay? Hold on to that question for a moment. Just for a moment, because it's a really neat cue that we use in our business, and it deals with superlatives. Superlatives are really useful in our work. Superlatives can be the biggest, the optimum, the largest. Let's see, here's one. Earth, Jurassic era, largest land-dwelling creature. Give me a couple numbers.
3527.
We take this, and instead of writing it on erasable media, we formalize it. We'll write this down on a 3x5 card or a manila envelope. Manila envelopes are good because you can put your work inside. That's the only reason we use that. Once we formalize the cue and we ritualize it like that, these numbers are forever connected in our target pool with this particular target. Earth. Everybody know where Earth is? Unconscious certainly knows where it is. When? Jurassic era. Very loose. 98 million years, a very loose era. But still, okay, we know this empirically for targeting. Largest, superlative. They can only be one. That's why that's useful. They can only be one throughout the entire 98 million years. Land-dwelling as opposed to sea-dwelling creature. Every remote viewer has to be, we know, on that same creature. Regardless of when you remote view it and where remote, you'll still be on top of that creature. But notice that we did not designate when in the life cycle of the creature you're on it. So you could pick up the creature. Let's say it hatched from an egg. You could pick up the creature during that phase of its life cycle as well as the acme of its life when it is the largest. So we didn't specify that. So a viewer can pick up the creature at any point in its life. But it will always be that one because it can only be one. Is that clear? That's an easy one. This produces a lot of symbolic data. It's a transcendental search term. It doesn't produce stuff that's related to people and a person necessarily, as opposed to Jesus of Nazareth.
That would be more specific.
This relates to, turns out, relates to a person here. But we'd still have to start it off as a topical search because we don't know if he's real or not. Just because a book says that something existed, we're not sure if the book is right. That's what we're trying to check on, right? So we'll give it a shot here. This one, though, is very high. This is almost symbolic in its terminology. Take it from me. This one is the real man, all right? Now, okay, so there's a Jesus of Nazareth. We determine that. There's a man here, a solid physical man. Is he what this book says he was, or anything akin to it? Right? That's the question there, too. So there's lots of ways of exploring that once we get a lock on the target. Once the viewer locks on to the person in a site template, we can use this template and do anything we want with it in terms of movement exercises. You never have a monitor. Remember what I said on day one. You do not want to work with anyone else in the room unless it's a training, unless you're teaching them. If you're working an operational target, no one should be in that room. Because if they have any interest whatsoever in what you're doing, they cannot not telegraph psychically or body language, even their eyes dilating, what they're interested in. What that will do, if you're in stage 4 and you say person, dead, famous, and whatever, and now the person that's interested, the tasker who gave you this, is all of a sudden they're chomping at the bit, right? And they're trying to maintain this poker face, but inside you can't fool the unconscious. I mean, that's what we're doing here. The unconscious is not fooled. So they're transmitting their agenda here to you. And all of a sudden, you pick up on that, and the signal strength of that pulls you off, starts to skew you. You may become a little bit interested in this person now, more than you should be, because this person's energy is on that particular item, that they have an agenda. We call this stage 4 overlay. It occurs even if the person's not there. If I tell you, I want you to solve a problem for me, and we want to help somebody over here. I want you to determine what happened at this accident scene for me. And I give you that target, but my hidden agenda is I want to blackmail this person, and I don't tell you that, I lie to you. The energy of my lie eclipses the target data in stage 4. It overlays the agenda. What comes out is me lying to you. First, because the signal strength there is of higher value. Okay, so what's your friend's name, first name?
Chris.
With a K or C?
C.
Chris. Let's just slap some terms up here. Chris has MS. What about it?
He's devastated. I mean, he's in a wheelchair. He's 25.
What do we want in terms of remote viewing? What information do we
That
want?
would be a cure or a particular
There's
that
a
applies
cause
to
statement.
him.
Cause or a cure. That's two different things on a timeline. By convention, to the left, right is the past, and to the right of the moving now is the future. Two different things. So do we want to know, do we want to focus on the cause or the origin, which may be just genetic? Some breast tumors, on the saddest cases I work, are, for instance, breast tumors are the ones that are genetic and somatic in origin, and it's not pesticides, or it's not microwave radiation or synergetic effect of that kind of thing. It's just that they're doomed to begin with, and those are sad cases too. And genetic therapy isn't, well, I don't want to get into that. But cause or origin. Are we interested perhaps in the cause and origin of Chris's MS? We're interested maybe, but I don't think we should, in terms of time and sense of urgency, we should be focusing on the left side of the timeline, the past. Let's see if we can help the person, right? So, cure? All right. We want to cure. Chris, what about it? MS cure. If you
Like at that point, would you want to put like possible behind MS cure?
We'll get to that in a moment. MS cure. First of all, Where are we in time? Let's say in the year 2200, if we're still alive, in the year 2200, there's an easy cure for MS. Is that going to help Chris now? Mind is outside of time. So we're going to have to constrain the cue temporarily to now or present time. Otherwise, I take it from someone who knows, you'll pick up devices that are in a prototype stage or fixes or emulatives or something, a vaccine that's 20 years hence or more that is an effective cure, but it doesn't help Chris now. So we actually have to pull in and constrain the search queue with a temporal qualifier. This one. I'm sorry, I'm going to put it over here for now. From this point on, nobody here in this room needs to use Chris's last name because there's a complete chain of custody. There's a complete chain of custody. You're all here. You know what we're talking about. His friend, he knows who his friend is. There's a complete continuity, chain of custody. We don't have to use his last name. We don't even have to use Chris as long as his friend, he only has one friend with MS. Suppose there is no cure. Suppose the cure is death. Many times, right? The cure is death. That is not going to help him either. But what's the next best thing? Treatment. Yes. So what we do is we incorporate both those things into the cue. And unconscious, our best friend will give us the best case. Treatment hyphen cure. Okay? A treatment or a cure. Is that all we're interested in? Suppose the cure is in a top secret Chinese laboratory. Is that going to help Chris? But unconscious gave you what you asked for. You got exactly what you want in your internet Google search. Your search engine gave you what you wanted. You got what you wanted. Huh? Yeah. Available. Presently available. Okay? Now we're starting to cook. Chris, multiple sclerosis, the condition, presently available treatment or cure. There's still one more thing that might be wrong with this cue. Anybody know what it is? It's subtle. You may not. Good. Yeah. There you go. There you go. That's one. That's one more. Yeah. Let me just.
The superlative.
Yep. Optimum, presently available treatment cure. Is there anything else? It's very subtle, but it's very important. How do we know it's multiple sclerosis? How do we know? That's the problem. That's a big problem, too. Alzheimer's. What the hell is Alzheimer's? In pathology, I mean, you have a general idea what Alzheimer's is, but do we really know? Is there an agreement? There's not a general agreement. There's standards, but there's not a general agreement. What about a cancer? What about cancer? And there's different types of cancers. There's different types of leukemias and things like that.
So what you're referring to is diagnosis, previous diagnosis, right?
I'm saying if the diagnosis is incorrect, we really screwed up the cue. This is going to be junk out because it's not multiple. Suppose he has leukemia instead of multiple sclerosis, then we wasted a week's worth of work or 2 days worth of work because it's junk in, junk out. Right? Instead of multiple sclerosis, just say present illness. We don't want to put just illness because unconscious could refer back. Let's say that Chris had smallpox when he was 7 years old. That's also it's also a major illness. So now which major illness are we referring to? All right. This is probably okay. This is probably okay. But there's a better cue. There's an elegant algorithm that can replace all of this. No kidding. It is one of the most valuable cues empirically that we've discovered in the business. This is a catch-all. Let's say that Chris has pancreatic cancer or a brain tumor that's even worse than the multiple sclerosis and the doctors didn't catch it. Okay? This will, Chris, optimum health trajectory lets unconscious completely off the leash to go in, and in priority order, the first session will grab the worst thing first and subject it to the future. Trajectory implies, in the state-space analytical sense, movement in time. From this point, wherever you work the session, optimized for his health, whatever the condition may be. So even if you're healthy and you run this, you'll still get something that optimizes your health. It could be something small. If you have a major condition, this is going to give you something that you're looking for in terms of him. That will be very important. Is that clear? This is worth its weight in gold. No kidding. Very, very valuable to everybody. You just, if you want a tune-up, that will tell you what to do. Optimum health trajectory. If there's something that you don't know about that's wrong with you, then that pops up first as a problem. Let's say your heart, right? Let's say your heart. There's something wrong with your heart. You'll sketch a picture, and you'll sketch in your stage 3 sketch, your first stage 3 sketch, in your idea template. You'll just have a heart, and you'll say, well, gee, what does that have to do with my optimum health trajectory? It's unconscious telling you, you have a problem. First, you have to recognize the problem. There's something wrong with your heart. Then, in your subsequent sessions, you'll work out what you need to do to ameliorate the condition or to correct the condition. Okay? That's what immediately. Your unconscious is your best friend. Oh, glad you asked. Take a look at this. If there's nothing wrong with you and you're healthy, what will pop up is something that's a tonic or will improve your present health, or an exercise or a spa that you need to go to, or a particular ointment, anything that would improve your health, because that's your best friend telling you, hey, try this, do this. That's what that will do. Immediate.
Will this allow the mind to travel, let's say 5 years from now, when they decode the genome and find what gene is responsible for that and bring
We don't know. We have no idea. We go into this with no preconceived notions at all. If you do, you've screwed up already, and you might as well abandon the session, abort the session. Because if you go in thinking you know the answer, you've screwed this up. Okay, what this will do, optimum means optimum. It is in terms of a global approach that unconscious has to the problem. It optimizes your health right now. Period. Right now. That's what it does. Whatever pops out, that's the answer right now. You run this again in another week or another 2 months, it may be the same or it may have shifted to something new. Once you do that, it's locked. Okay, you can use any set of numbers you want as long as you append this here. But if you change this and you decide that you want to look at instead of Chris, you want to look at somebody else named Mark, these got to go because they point to another direction, another vector space, another metric space. So does that kind of give you an idea how complex cues can be? But if you don't take the time to do this correctly, you see now how much work this remote viewing process is. Make it worth your while by taking the time to get this correct. In our business, if we have a dicey cue, if there's something that we're exploring, like for instance a new line of technology, for instance, a new area of science, the general rule of thumb is if two trained remote viewers agree upon the cue, go with it. 99% chance that it's okay. So we're constrained to things like the following: past, future, present, now, first, temporally speaking. First is last. Will last work? Don't use last because it's ambiguous. This is the last time I'm going to do this, and that was this is the last time I'm going to see her. And the last time I saw her was two different meanings. So we use final. Final. Next, that's a big one. Next. Then we can use things like nearest, preceding or near term or short term. Those are available to us too. But these are the ones you guys will use here. Mostly these. Now is to present as residence is to home, for instance. Now means right now. You know, your best friend's location, it's a dog, your best friend's location now, once you put your pen on that paper, it freeze frames it. The rest of the session, regardless of whether it takes a day or a week or a month, is at that snapshot in time wherever your best friend was when you started this session. As opposed to your best friend present time, that's spread out about 72 hours. Your Las Vegas or something like that. Residence is the particular spot, primary, Chandra Levy's murderer / residence. Puts primary residence, puts you right on top of the person's condo, home, tent, or if they're a vagrant on the road, that kind of thing, as opposed to home, Washington, D.C. How do we know these? Empirically, just by experimenting over the years. That's what happens.
Let's recap the information on properly forming a cue. Cues are interpreted literally. The format of the cue is the first most important step in solving a problem using RV. Do not make any assumptions when creating your search cue. This disc covers basic cueing for discrete targets only. You will cover more advanced target classes and cueing processes later in the Learn Remote Viewing set. All cues start with a discrete target and then refine it down to the specific question about that target. Each refinement is separated with a slash. The basic structure of a cue, therefore, looks like this. The best way to describe how to set up cues is by providing examples. Here are a number of examples that will work for setting up your own cues at home. Cue to determine if a person is alive or dead. Cues used in locating objects. Optimal trajectory cues. And finally, an excellent health cue. Over the years, it has been determined experimentally the best terms to use for the most efficient results. A few words that you may wish to use in cues that you make should be as follows. All cues are built using the basic cue structure from the gross to the detail. Your cue should work as long as there is no ambiguity in your cue and it is arranged from the gross to the detail. For example, if you wanted to know who was going to win the next Super Bowl, you could construct your cue like this. Next Super Bowl football game / winning team's hometown / most recognizable feature.
For stage 4s, make sure you write all the 8 columns across the top of the page after you number it. And treat it the same way as if it were, actually cut the worksheets. Recreate them, the ones you've been using. But this makes you more attentive. By having blank sheets of paper, you have to be far more attentive and have far more attention to detail than you do if you're just filling in the blanks on forms, pre-formatted paper. This makes you far more attentive. You're forced to know what to do next. So that's why we do this. You're going to work this afternoon an unknown. You're going to solve for an unknown that nobody knows until this afternoon. If you do your job right, you guys will be the first one to solve this problem. And I'm not kidding. I have not worked it. I'm not going to work it either. You are. But you're going to work it blind. You're not allowed to work front-loaded sessions in a level 1 and 2. Only 3. Having said that, however, it still is an unknown. If you do your job right, you'll leave here with something that is a first. It is something that we can solve in class that nobody knows. This one first. You're going to have the flow chart. This is all done on clean bond paper. So that's going to up the level of confusion. Keep your finger on the next step. What's next? What's next? What's next? What's next? Just follow those arrows on that flow chart. That's what the flow chart's for. I'll read the target reference numbers. You prepare your paper the same way that you did, name, date, and time, up in the upper right-hand corner. As soon as I read you the target reference numbers, produce an ideogram and off to town you go. That's a mistake. No, there's even a worse mistake. Yeah, he has a picture of the last feedback target on the table. His peripheral vision will pick that up, so he'll morph the Haj in with this other target that you're about to do. So, bad.
Try to wean yourself from using the word descriptor list and the process flow chart. Use them only when you need to, but keep in mind that they impede the RV process, so discard them as soon as you have committed them to memory. Create each necessary RV template as you move through each stage of your session. This will enable you to begin breaking away from your dependency of utilizing pre-made templates. Eventually, as you become more proficient in remote viewing, you will cease to use the template outlines entirely and simply write down pure session data in the same format and structure that the templates have trained you. This target requires that you have templates A, B, 3 sets of templates C and D, along with template E. The order of your templates should be A, B, C, D, C, D, C, D, E. In just a few moments, you will see Ed Dames provide the target reference numbers for Target 4. At that time, you must pause your DVD player while the target reference numbers are displayed on the screen and immediately begin your session.
This is about a 15-minute session, so just move through it as fast as you can. Now, here we go. 9900 8640.
Let's continue. Please have your second completed session in front of you before you watch the target feedback. If you did not yet remote view the second target, stop here, go back, and do it now before proceeding.
Okay, is the target, what do we got here? Person, place, thing, or an event, or a combination of the above? What are we dealing with? Combination? What do we have? Anybody want to take a swag?
A thing.
A thing? What kind of thing? A what?
Chair.
A chair. That's pretty jejune. A chair?
A leather recliner.
A leather recliner. Okay, I think I've been in this business too long. Did everybody hear that? This guy says, I mean, I gotta commend you for your bravery, you know. He says he's got a chair and it's a leather recliner. It's a chair, all right, with leather. It's old Sparky, Savannah State electric chair. Good job. Very good job. That's your target, old Sparky, Savannah State. Georgia's electric chair. Great job. Congratulations. Good job. Not bad. Not bad. Bad at all.
That explains why I got hot and burning.
Did you? No. Okay. Why don't you stand up and go and read to us all of your session? What were your stage 2s? Hot and burning.
Well, now it's my first.
Okay. Did you go into stage 4 at all?
Yeah, but I left the hot and burning and prickly part out.
Hot, burning, and prickly. Those might be concepts associated with that. We'll take a short break, and I want to go right back into another session soon. But this time, I want you to attend to housekeeping, because you don't have those pre-printed worksheets. You have to make your own. And this time, I would like for you to attend to that. That's the goal of the next session, is to make sure that you've ordered your pages correctly. That's what you're going to be doing subsequent to this workshop. All right?
Because of the added complexity of not utilizing pre-made templates, we're going to execute another target without adding additional steps, so you may have another opportunity to become more familiar using blank paper. Proceed through the session, indicating aspects X, A, and B. Finish your session by producing a site template. Prepare to pause your DVD player, as Ed Dames is about to provide the session target reference numbers. This target should not take more than 45 minutes.
Seven 0 0 7 2 8 1 3.
Let's continue. Please have your third completed session in front of you before you watch the target feedback. If you did not yet remote view the third target, stop here, go back, and do it now before proceeding.
I'm interested in whatever you labeled as the target, X. This time, you've got enough of erudition here to be able to direct your hand to put an X on the target. We're interested in the target. So whatever you labeled as X at your site, let's turn our attention to that. What was your X? Describe your X. What you've got here is the solution to a problem. You have an answer. In order to put it in the perspective, to conduct any real analysis, you need to know what the question was. I got that. And I'm going to give that to you soon. But before we do that, let's take a look at the target. We need to describe the target. What is your X? How would you describe your X in terms of stage 4? If you look at the S4 of X, and how X appears in your site template, what is it? What is X? A structure. Anybody else got anything like a structure? Now, by definition in our business, a structure has a right angle. So here, if it doesn't have a right angle, is this man-made or natural? Is it a stone or natural or both? Is it man-made or natural? Right. Man-made. Anybody else get man-made? Man-made. Anybody else for X? What is X? Is X in a microbe, a tree, a man-made thing? Is that your X? That's your X? Okay, describe that for me. What is that? In stage 4.
Dense.
It's what?
Dense.
No. Okay, it's dense. What?
It's round.
It's dense. It's round. Is it round or is it spherical? Or both? Round. Okay, what else is it? Is it a thing? Is it man-made or natural?
Man-made, well,
It's not a diatom? Okay, so I'm holding his feet to the fire on this. This is what you asked me for yesterday. How will he know whether something is AOL or not? He's telling me. I'm putting him on the spot. I'm saying, is that man-made or natural? He's saying it's man-made. So somewhere between yesterday and today, he was able to fine-tune his antenna and say, I know now when this is AOL and when it's not. It just takes training. That's all. What do you have for X? That's your X? Okay. Is that curved line for X? Is that a thing? Is the outline of a thing? Or is that a motion line?
It's an outline.
It's an outline. Okay, it's an outline of a curved thing. Then you should finish the thing the next time. If you're going to, don't stop the curve with your hand. Go all the way around if it's a curved thing. Or if it's motion, put an arrowhead on it. All right? What did you get for X?
curve.
A curved thing.
It's an open, round, up.
Open, round, and up. Is there anything there? Up high? A dome-shaped object, man-made or natural? Okay, so are we all in agreement that we got a man-made object? Okay, what is it? Anybody want to take a swag? A vehicle? What kind of vehicle? A flying vehicle? Let me see your stage 4s, please. You're saying you got a vehicle in flight. Does anybody else have anything like that? You have something in flight? So, if this is the answer to a question, and we're getting close to the answer to the question, what are we dealing with here? What is this? It's a man-made, collate and summarize your data out loud. It's a man-made object that's in space. What? Okay, so now let's get down to the detail. What kind of a man-made object in space? What kind of AIs did you guys have attendant to this? Is this familiar? What are the I's associated with X? What are the I's, the I column? You got an object, a man-made object in stage 4, attendant with X. Anybody get any I's? Did anybody dare to venture out into the I column? What? Communicating as an I. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
I had foreign hope. I didn't know where
I hope it was an AOL. I hope where did you put it? What the hell is a UFO?
We thank you for watching this video and ask you to spread the news. Put this video on your social network or link to it so that you can be part of the anonymous movement. Together we are strong. Together we are anonymous.